Hey everybody, Dr. Tom McNamara back here again for our course in trigonometry. In this video I wanted to review the half angle formulas and also talk about how we choose the plus or minus sign. You'll see what I mean after we get the formulas on the board here. Okay, so before we get to the double angle formulas, before we get to the half angle formulas, we need to review the double angle formulas for cosine. Now remember, these come from the angle addition formulas that we talked about earlier on in the course, and there are three versions for the cosine. Okay, so in particular I want to look at this one. So we're going to consider this one. Cosine 2a is equal to 2 cosine squared a minus 1. Now what we can do is we can solve this equation for cosine a. So first thing I'm going to do is get cosine squared a by itself. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. And then I'm going to divide by 2. Now if I know what cosine squared a is, I can work backwards and get cosine a by taking the square root. Now when I do that, I do have to account for the possibility of this answer either being positive or negative. Okay, I don't know which one. So for example, if I told you I squared something and I got 9, well there's no way for you to know if I started with 3 or negative 3. So you've got two possibilities there. So that's what we've got right here. And this actually leads us to the half angle formula for cosine. All right. It's all about the relationship between this quantity and this one, okay? So whatever this is, that one's double. Or, thinking in reverse, whatever this one is, over here we've got half of it. Okay, so our half angle formula for cosine. We can get a half angle formula for sine as well. What we do is we start with this version of the double angle formula for cosine. It was 1 minus 2. It's cosine 2a equals 1 minus 2 sine squared a. So that tells me that sine a equals, well, it's going to work out like this. Right? If we were to try to get sine squared by itself, we would subtract 1 and then divide by negative 2. So notice I actually switched the signs up top here, and this is no longer a negative. And then, of course, to actually get sine a, we got to do this. Okay? So the half angle formula for sine would be plus or minus square root 1 minus cosine a over 2. All right, notice that both of the half angle formulas involve cosine. And in fact, I'm going to repeat my half angle formula for cosine over here. Going to change it up a little bit so we have that nice symmetry. They both kind of look the same. Okay, so notice they both involve cosine. The only difference is a minus sign. The one for sine, the half angle formula for sine, involves a minus. This one has a plus. Okay, so let's do a quick example. Evaluate, oh, what shall we do? Let's do sine 15 degrees. Okay, so remember, if I'm asking you for an exact value, which is what I really mean here, it's going to have to be something that's related to a special angle. And what are the special angles? Well, remember 30, 45, 60 degrees, or pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3 radians. The angles involved in our special triangles. 15 degrees was not one of them. Okay, but 15 degrees is half of one of our special angles. So, sine 15 degrees, using the half angle formula for sine, 1 minus cosine 30 degrees over 2. Now the question is, do I choose the plus or do I choose the minus? Well, 15 degrees is a quadrant 1 angle. Remember, we're talking about an angle in standard position. We think of the positive x-axis, we rotate in the counterclockwise direction. If you rotate through an angle of 15 degrees, you have stayed in the first quadrant. Your sine and cosine would both be positive. So, we're going to choose the positive version. Okay, now we can look at our unit circle or what have you to get the cosine of 30 degrees. It's radical 3 over 2. Complex fraction right here. If you look back to our last video, you'll see how I like to deal with those. I like to multiply every term by my LCD. Well, there's only one denominator to deal with, so the LCD is that denominator. Hit everything with a 2. Hit that with a 2. Hit that with a 2. Hit that with a 2. 2 minus radical 3 over 4. Square roots behave nicely with respect to multiplication and division. So the square root of this over that would be the same as the square root of this thing over the square root of that thing. We know the square root of 4 is 2, so we've got that right there. Okay, so you got your half angle formulas here, and you need to be able to choose the plus or the minus. How do you do that? Well, you look at where a over 2 terminates. Look at the quadrant where a over 2 terminates. And that will determine the sign, S-I-G-N, sign, that you should use. All right? So easy enough.